everybody. I hope you've had a lovely day. It was nice to see the sunshine and blue skies today. I think I've started a little bit early, so I apologise if anybody's missing this very start, but off we go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Petra Joly. And I have a clinic in Geelong called Newtown Natural Fertility and Women's Health, and I've been working in women and obviously male fertility for 17 years now, and I'm very passionate about getting the message across about the fact that there are things you can do to increase your fertility. I'm also doing some work in with schools, which is great, getting to the teens so that they're educated and so that when they get into their older years and reproductive years, hopefully they've got a little bit more understanding of what they can do to increase their fertility. So that's really what these sessions have been about. Tonight is about male fertility 101. So obviously we've only got a limited amount of time and it's no personalised advice that I've got time for, but obviously we've got the clinic there for those of you that do live in our area. And for others, I've got very exciting news at the end of this about an online program that I'm currently creating. So out of the darkness that is COVID, you can tell I'm a fertility person, then the light is going to be that I've created this new program, which will be available for everybody. So welcome, thank you for joining me tonight. Hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. By all accounts, please let me know if there's any issues. Hopefully I've got it nailed this week. So male fertility, it's not something that we talk about very often. It's something that people obviously are suffering from. Unfortunately, fertility rates in men are actually dropping, and that's something we're going to touch on tonight, and the reasons to why that might be and what we can do about it, because obviously it's all good to have an education about something, but we need the tools to know what we can actually do to improve it and improve our chances of not just falling pregnant but staying pregnant. So male sperm has a big impact actually on our ability to stay pregnant as well. So there's been quite a few studies recently about the importance in sperm in allowing the embryo to develop to the stage where it can attach effectively and stay for the duration. So obviously 50% of the equation when it comes to fertility. So we need to make sure that they are in optimal health and well-being. So what is sperm? I suppose that's a good question. And what is semen? Because we sometimes talk about a sperm analysis or a semen analysis. So the semen, we'll just get a little bit sciencey here. The semen is the liquid that holds the spermatozoa. So it's the liquid that suspends the sperm. So when we go in, or not we go in, but when our partners go in, or if you go in yourself and you get what's called a semen analysis done, then you'll be getting quite a few different factors tested, and I'll go through that in a second. So the sperm is the active part, or the spermatozoa. So that is actually what it's carried in the semen, and so that it can get to where it needs to get into the female, and then it travels along through the female's vagina and hopefully gets to an egg when she's ovulating. All right, so it's very important for it to be able to do that job, which is the semen analysis tells us quite a few different factors as to whether it's going to be able to do that effectively. So that's essentially what sperm is. It's the active part. It's the one that looks like a swimmer or a little tadpole. So I'm sure most of you have seen almost like a caricature of it. That seems to be around quite a lot. So spermatogenesis is very similar. I don't know if you remember, I was talking about oogenesis when I was talking about female fertility. Spermatogenesis is exactly the same thing, but in a male. So it's actually the production of the very primordial sperm, or the spermatozoa that I was talking about, and as it develops through the process of becoming a mature sperm, able to hopefully impregnate an egg. All right, so spermatogenesis takes 100 days, which is exactly the same as a female with her oogenesis, so her follicular, her development from primordial follicle to an egg is 100 days as well. All right, so it's exactly the same. So a lot of the advice that I'm going to be saying for the males in this equation is going to be very similar to what we've already gone. So So this week, being the last week of these fertility fitness sessions, even though it's about male health, we're actually going to be touching on and rounding up everything that we've done over the last 5 weeks. All right. So it's going to be a nice little round off to everything that we've done already. So it looks like quite a few people are joining. So that's good. Please let me know that I'm the right way up and you can hear me. Maybe send me a wave or a kiss or a, I don't know, smiley face or something in the comments. I'd really like you to do that. So male fertility isn't talked about too much, as I touched on, just because I guess it's something that Western medicine don't have a lot that they can do for it other than with IVF. That seems to be them. If there is an issue, they tend to just suggest either IVF or IVF with a sperm donor. There doesn't seem to be much many treatment options in Western medicine. What I'd like to say is there's a lot of options in natural medicine, and I see the results all the time. So we tend to do, obviously, the acupuncture. We tend to give a lot of dietary advice, lifestyle advice, and obviously we do some Chinese herbs as well. And we see the results. All right. So as long as they've got some sperm, natural medicine, and probably naturopaths would say the same thing, we can improve the quality, we can improve the fragmentation of them or the morphology of them. So there is actually a lot Western medicine natural medicine can do. So even if someone you know or in your own lives you get told that the sperm isn't great, don't feel like your only option is assisted reproduction. Okay, there are lots that we can try, and I feel like we really have a good handle on it, and we've literally been doing it for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. So I feel very confident that it's something we can help with. The only time we can't help, to be totally honest, is when they've got zero sperm. All right, we can't build from nothing. We need something to start with. All right, so let's talk about how do we check sperm, that, some of you would know about what they do today, but interestingly, in our classical texts, in our classical Chinese books, the way they used to do it was sort of 4 different ways. They would inspect, number 1 was inspect the color of the semen. So they would use their vision to have a little check at it. Number 2, they would check the thickness of it. And again, that would just be by looking and probably touching as well in that case. Number 3, they would smell it to see if there was any heat or, because quite often in Chinese medicine, if something is a bit hot, it would get a little bit smell a little bit and discolored as well. And number 4, can anybody have a guess what you reckon they might have done back in, ancient China to test sperm? It's pretty revolting. If anyone guesses it, I'll be very impressed. But seeing as I've said how revolting it seems, you might guess. Yeah, no one's having a guess. They would actually taste it. I mean, imagine tasting somebody. Anyway, so that was how they did it in classical texts. You'd be pleased to know that they don't do that anymore, and anybody testing it would be, what a job that would be. But these days they do what's called a semen analysis. So that in itself can be challenging because it has to be done at a certain time of the day, on certain days of the week. It's got to be taken in within a certain amount of time, and it's got to be kept at body temperature. So unfortunately, the testing side of it isn't just a blood test. It's actually an actual semen analysis. Like they'll actually need a sample jar. And then again, they need to know exactly when they can take it in, all right? And then they'll need to pop it under their arm, or I always suggest put it deep in their pocket so it stays sort of in their groin area. So that will keep it at the right temperature, but it's got to be tested really quickly. So you've got to get it in to the testing clinic within half an hour of them doing that analysis. And this seems to be one of the biggest issues in getting it done, is it's just not easy. Some clinics, and I don't know if anyone does do this in Geelong, I must do some more research, and if anybody knows, please let me know. But some clinics, and I think maybe in Melbourne, you can actually go and do the sperm analysis there if the male is prepared to do that, and then it's done straight away. And the testing is just so much more accurate without that lag of time. Now, the things they test in a sperm analysis is the sperm count, which is basically the sperm sort of live numbers, so the number of sperm. They also check the semen volume, so the actual volume of, like, it's not the quantity of sperm that's actually count, but volume is actually how much semen is there, because sometimes there's that can be an issue as well. There's not enough of the liquid to hold the sperm, which means there's not enough sperm there either. Then they also check the sperm motility, which is how they move, their ability to move, because sperm actually, if you think about the logistics of it and the actual physicality of it, sperm has to go quite a fair way, has to go up and up to where the egg is. It has to go through the fallopian tubes and be there waiting for the egg to pop out. Right, so it has got quite a journey to go. So that's why we need to have really good swimmers, like good motility. And we also need, and I talked about, did I talk about this with female fertility? But also that's why we need good cervical fluid as females as well, because that allows the transport as well. That helps the sperm get where it needs to go, all right? And the other big thing is the sperm morphology, which is actually the shape of the sperm. So if anybody has watched The Simpsons and seen the very famous episode of where Homer gets his sperm checked, and they've got like 2 heads, no head, no tail, 2 tails, like they're all over the shop, like he had the oddest sperm. And unfortunately that is happening. We are seeing more and more morphology issues, which means that quite often, there's head defects or tail defects. So what I do want to talk about is the World Health Organization have, they kind of set the guidelines for Australia and tell us what they consider to be fertile. Now, 10 years ago, males had to have 10%, what's considered 10% normal sperm, which means 10% of their sperm has the 1 head, 1 tail, good motility. So of all the millions of sperm that they need, only 10% of them needed to be active and heading in the right direction and doing all the right things and look right in order to be considered fertile. Now, I've been in the industry for quite a long time, right? So when I first started, they had to have 10% good sperm, and that's still the same in animal husbandry actually. So rams need to have at least 10% good sperm, otherwise they're put out to pasture or whatever they do to rams that can't procreate. Then after about probably about 8 years ago, it dropped down to 6%. They only needed 6% good sperm, right? Then they dropped down to 5%. And then in the last probably 2 or 3 years, it's dropped down to 3%. So for whatever reason, and if anyone can tell me, for whatever reason, males only need to have 3% normal sperm. So if you had a bunch of 100 grapes, and of those 100 grapes, 97 of them were all brown and shriveled, and only 3 looked like normal, fresh, green grapes, that would still be considered okay. But could you imagine those 3 grapes, if we put it back into sperm terms, could you imagine them trying to get through all this kind of 2-headed, no-tailed sperm? It would just be like them they can't get through it. So I can't imagine how, and I'm seeing it clinically, I can't imagine how, and I don't know if you can, I can't imagine how you could possibly fall pregnant when only 3 out of every 100 of your sperm are normal or considered normal. So it's a really, I don't know why the World Health Organization think that that's okay. And I don't know, there is absolutely no physical reason that I have been able to find as to why that is. So our infertility rates are going up, but our expectations of sperm have come right down. So what I'm finding clinically is girls are coming in saying, I've got unexplained infertility. And I say, what's the sperm like? And they'll say, I've been told it's fine. And then we look at it and they're sitting right on that 3% mark. And then I go, well, how about we work on the sperm, get them up to what used to be considered a fertile, rate, and see what happens. And guess what? 90% of the time they're falling pregnant. Okay, so there's definitely a link between the rise in infertility and male sperm. And they're starting to talk about it, but the World Health Organization have got a bit to answer for, because I do not understand that. And I am a bit of a change maker, and I'm hoping that at some time in my life I will actually get that brought back up to where it needs to be considered fertile. All right, so that's just my little rant, and I'll just get off my box now. So sperm is definitely something that has decreased considerably, and the expectations have also decreased, so it's just crazy. So but we can do something, and that's why I want you to know this, and you guys can do something at home as well. All right, so let's talk about how we can improve sperm. All right, so anything that affects the maturation of the sperm will affect the quality of the sperm. So anything that sort of upsets that process of spermatogenesis that I was talking about, which is the same as the oogenesis, anything that happens in those processes means that the quality of what the finished product is not going to be there. All right. So what we've got to look about is what is that? So the big thing with sperm, and this is eggs as well, is the oxidative stress or oxidative damage. All right, so oxidation is where it's like the cleaners in our system and in our reproductive system. All right, so we need oxygenation to happen in order, like free radicals and antioxidants to clean all our cells and clean our eggs and our primordial follicles and our sperm, so that they can develop properly and develop normally and develop healthily. All right. So when this process gets broken up by, chemicals and stress and, all these different things that affect oxidative processes, we get what's called oxidative stress, and that creates oxidative damage, which means the product at the end isn't as good as it needs to be considered fertile. So the big thing that creates oxidative damage, particularly in men, and I touched on it, was chemicals. All right, so it might be, in the big picture, it could be environmental toxins. So it could be whether they're working with petrols or glues or paints. It could be, and this is similar to women, wearing aftershaves full of chemicals. Women and perfume's got 200 different chemicals in it, so I know more about the perfume than I do about aftershave, but I would assume aftershave is exactly the same. But yeah, quite often it's to do with that sort of chemical load at their work. That's quite a common one. Or even just keeping phones near the reproductive organs in their pockets. That's a definite no-no, all right, because it's the temperature which kind of overheats the sperm. Sperm doesn't like heat, and that will create damage too. And then the other thing was, the radiation from the phones as well. So tell your men to get the phones out of their pockets, all right? Girls are quite lucky. We tend not to put them in our pockets. We quite often have a handbag, so we've got leather between, or, some sort of kind of thick canvas between ourselves and our phones. But certainly tell our men not to do that. As I said, heat damages sperm as well. So bike riders, it's a bit of an issue because they're especially those long road bike riders like my husband is. He wasn't back when I was trying to conceive, but he is now. But with the testicles so close to the body when they're bike riding, it just cooks the sperm. Not good, doesn't like it. All right, creates that oxidative damage and stress again. Diet's a big one, obviously, same as women, same as what we said with the nutrition. So it's what goes in your body and what goes on your body. So the chemicals is kind of what goes on your body quite often, and what goes in your body is the food that you're eating. So, try to eat, same as women, diet high in, natural antioxidants, making sure that you've got lots of leafy greens. Try not to eat denatured food. Nude food is best. So things, all the food from nature, making sure that they're getting, all the nuts, seeds, legumes, all different colors of vegetables. That's always going to help with the free radicals and improve their health and improve the quality of the sperm. All right. So nutrition is obviously a really key element. The other thing that they're putting male fertility issues down to is stress. All right. So obviously men get just as stressed as women. Quite often they don't reach out as much. They tend to quite often keep it internal. So that stress can build up. And as we know from what I was saying, was that last week? No, last week was movement. The week before that, when we were talking about stress and fertility don't go well together. All right. As stress goes up, it affects our adrenal system. And once our adrenal system is overworked, then our reproductive system goes down. It's affected by it. All right. So we need to get that balance back. So stress is a big one. And it's something that, during Men's Health Week, they talk about it, but that tends to be about it. So the stress tools that I gave you 2 weeks ago obviously need to carry across to the male side of the picture as well, because they're creating half the baby. So that's really important too. So you've got to find what floats the boat. All right, just making sure that they're having enough time out. With the way people are working from home at the moment, stress levels can be highest, particularly in the workplace, if they're just going from meeting to meeting. Just making sure that they get outside and do all the stuff that we're telling our kids to do, or telling our, mums to do, or telling each other to do. Get out, move, get out in the sunshine, get away from screens. Don't have the screen in the bedroom at night. Baths are a really good way, whether or not they go for that. Getting off the screens is probably one of the biggest ones, because that will help with their sleep as well. And then the all goes on. So I did mention sleep. Sleep is important, and sleep's going to increase their fertility, because the body's going to get a chance to replenish overnight, more chi and blood, better digestion, better choices the next day. It all kind of feeds on from there. So it's, again, we're tying in what we've been doing all these other weeks, but now it's got to go into the males as well. Exercise. So we did touch on this last week: movement, exercise, activity, getting those endorphins kicking, getting the blood flow, particularly into the reproductive system, getting the endorphins up, getting the mood up. Then we sleep a little bit better. We feel a bit better the next day. We make better choices the next day. It's all the same thing. Again, it's that moderation, making sure that we're getting enough exercise and movement without overdoing it and depleting ourselves. So if the male in your life is, doing really long endurance type, elite type sport, and really pushing boundaries, and really challenging himself every single day, or, quite often, then I would say that's having an effect, and probably a negative effect, on his reproductive health. All right. And that's something you would need to have a conversation and get the balance right there. So these are just things that they can do, you can all do at home. All right. And lifestyle choices. Smoking, full of chemicals. It's hot. It's, carcinogenic. There's so many reasons not to smoke. A lot of oxidative damage is created by smoking, and that's not just smoking cigarettes, but smoking weed, or any other kind of drugs as well. Alcohol is up there as well. Alcohol is a stimulant. It also creates damage. We kind of know that, don't we? Coffee plays with your adrenal system, gives you that sort of synthetic high. Whenever we play with our adrenal system, it plays with our reproductive system as well. All right, so that HPO in women and HPG in men, so they kind of need to correlate. So we don't want to add any extra stress on our body. All right, so certainly coffee will add stress. It's a stimulant, just like alcohol is as well. And the temperature, I touched on that already. So, we talked about not having phones in your pocket for a few different reasons, one of them being heat. Bike riding is going to increase the temperature of the testicles, and the testicles hang down for a reason, because they don't want to be close. Sperm does not want to be close to the body. The other thing was boxes. That's just something, it's not an old wives' tale. Cotton boxes are going to give them space, the testes room to hang a bit lower as well. And cotton's more breathing, so it keeps them at a cooler temperature as well. So that's not an old wives' tale. It's definitely valid as well. So if we can do all these things, be mindful of chemicals around the body, in our food, making sure we're having a diet rich in antioxidants and rich in vitamins and minerals and protein and carbohydrate, like making sure we're getting everything that we need to get. If we're getting enough sleep at the right time, remember that was a key that we were talking about when we talked about sleep. It's not just getting 8 hours, but it's getting 8 hours from the time before midnight, because that's when melatonin is kicking in and that's when we'll get the deepest and best quality sleep. Also stress, keeping stress down as much as they can, making sure that they're having breaks, making sure that they're taking time out, making sure that they're not on screens. I always tend to say after 9 o'clock, and certainly not having screens in the bedroom, because that's a little bit tempting. Exercise, making sure it's enough but not too much. Half an hour a day is sort of this ideal happy place for exercise. Trying to make sure it's outdoors to get that added benefit of nature and fresh air, and just even seeing nature makes us feel more relaxed. And certainly if you're lucky enough to live on the coast, getting along the beach, you get the ions from that water flow, which oxygenates the blood. And when we oxygenate the blood, it nourishes the sperm as well. And then the lifestyle choices, which I just went through. So smoking, alcohol, coffee, keeping those down, making sure they're wearing the right underwear. And bike riding, keep the temperature away. That's another big thing, keeping the temperature away from the testes so that we can get good quality sperm coming through. And even though 100 days seems like a long time, in the scheme of things, it's actually only 3.5 months of prenatal care. All right. So it doesn't mean I want them to go back to drinking or back to smoking or back to having weed or whatever, or back to bike riding. It just means that we can make a big difference in a short space of time, really. And the benefit is just so huge to create, human life is sort of the ultimate reward. So it's sort of a little bit of a mindset shift as well, because some people don't like being told that they're over exercising, for example. But then if they can sort of see the reward isn't just in the challenge of the exercise, but the reward is a bigger picture and becoming a parent, sometimes that can help change the mindset a little bit, that it's worth it. And it's not forever, even though I'd like it to be forever. It isn't forever, and sometimes that's good to remind people as well. All right, so that kind of wraps up everything that we've been doing for the last, now almost 6 weeks. I hope you've really got a lot out of it. By all means, please ask any questions. I can always answer them later on. It's just a bit hard to answer when I'm here, but I'd be more than happy to do that. Please look at the replays if you need a little reminder. Know that I've got the clinic there if you need us. We're sort of back working most days now. And I've also, as I said, very exciting news that I'm starting a program. It's an online program for those that can't access actual clinical assistance with me. So I will be releasing the name soon. Actually, I can tell you. So it's going to be called the POD program. So the POD, I felt like, was a nice, nourishing sort of word, and it's something that is to do with fertility, but it's not necessarily just about fertility. So it's about that sort of security of being in a pod and feeling kind of secure. And, I think getting knowledge makes us feel a lot more in control and a lot more secure. So it's sort of all fitted in together. So hopefully I'll have that out in the next sort of three months. I think that will be launching. So keep an eye out for that. And just remember, just before I finish, that repeating consistently every day good behaviors that is going to nourish you and help your health and well-being, and the health and well-being of your children that you're wanting to create. By repeating them every single day, they become habits. And we're really good at creating habits. It's just we've got to make sure that they're serving you well. So good luck with that, and I wish you all the very best, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.